Bitcoin just exploded past $100,000 and altcoins are really starting to pick up. There's one question on everyone's mind. Is this the beginning of altcoin season? In today's video, we'll be discussing exactly that. We'll first be going over the recent Bitcoin price action, looking at the key resistance and support levels before we are to potentially move higher. And we'll also be taking a look at the altcoin market. Is the altcoin market set to take off, or is this just another fake out? If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. So first of all, right around the most recent trade deal with the UK, Trump came out and said, you better go out and buy stocks now. Let's hear what he had to say.
You better go out and buy stock now. Let me tell you, this country will be like a rocket ship that goes straight up. This is going to be numbers that nobody's ever seen before. That's a very important element of all of this. You know, if we get that. If you don't, and the Democrats are fighting it only because they want to fight. They have Trump derangement syndrome. You know, if it was somebody else, they wouldn't fight. Very, very important element of everything, of what we're doing. Unrelated to today, but related in the sense that we'll do, if that passes, we'll do even more business with the UK. We'll have so much.
So, the President of the United States told you to go out and buy stocks. Should you be listening here? First, let's take a look at the Bitcoin price action. We can see that we exploded right through our previous breakdown range. We've been talking about this on the channel extensively, and this was the previous breakdown range, which went ahead and set our new low around $74,500. Now, since then, we got a major pump to the upside, and on this pump, when we entered this breakdown region again, I did talk about a potential short targeting right around the same area that we held as support, around 93.7K to 93.3K. The reason being, this coincided with the yearly open. I know I'm repeating this, but if you're new to the channel, this is exactly what we went over in my previous videos. If you had entered a short, this was a key area to take some profits right around the yearly open. Now we got a massive pump to the upside, and quite honestly, I was thinking we were going to consolidate in this previous breakdown range before we go ahead and move higher, but we just absolutely blasted through it after Trump came out and signed that deal with the UK. Now, if we take a look at a more detailed chart here, what can we analyze? First of all, we are above the bull market support band, which is this red line and this green line over here. We are also above the 200-day moving average, a super critical level for Bitcoin. And we are also above the previous area of support when Bitcoin went ahead and put in that all-time high right around $109,000. Now, as I'm recording this video, Bitcoin is sitting pretty above 100K, and we wicked all the way up to $104,000. We're currently trying to hold this key area as support. Now, if you've been subscribed to the channel for a while, you know that I drew out this chart a long time ago when Bitcoin was forming this range and on its way down. The key areas that we needed to hold as support and which ones could be acting as resistance. This chart hasn't changed since, and it's been like this for a few months now. Now that we're trying to hold this level as support, what is the next area that you want to keep your eyes on? If you look at my cursor here, if we can hold this key area as support, we would naturally be targeting $106,000, which is an incredibly important milestone for Bitcoin. Why, you might ask? Every single time that we wicked above this level, even to just form an all-time high, Bitcoin got rejected and closed below $106,000. In December 2024, we wicked all the way up to 108.4K for Bitcoin, and then we ended up closing the candle below exactly $106,142. Now, of course, on the daily time frame, you don't have to measure the exact dollar level, but you get the point. We ended up closing below this level, and then we went ahead and moved much lower. Then when we got another renewed pump around Inauguration Day, we wicked all the way up to 109.3K. But what happened with that daily candle? We dropped back below 106.1K. And this has been the case ever since. Every single time that we wick above this level, we end up closing below. So if Bitcoin is able to hold this key level as support, this is naturally the next region. And so if we are to retest this level one more time and it does hold as support, it could provide an excellent long for Bitcoin targeting this level. but not so fast, because I do have some things to show you that are still relatively worrying, mostly to do with the stock market. So if we quickly take a look at the stock market, we can see that we are still below the 200-day moving average. Now, we've been going over this scenario a lot recently, but what you want to see for stocks is to pump above this 200-day moving average, hold it as support, and then go ahead and move higher. If that's the case and we hold this level as support, it would most certainly not surprise me that stocks go ahead and put in a new all-time high, which is of course very favorable for Bitcoin and the rest of the crypto market. But as you've been following the channel, the key area that I'm keeping my eyes on is potentially getting rejected at the 200-day moving average, as we saw back in 2022. We went back above it after the initial breakdown, and then we went ahead and moved much lower, pumped to that 200-day moving average, and then we came a little bit lower to make that low before stocks saw some renewed strength and we went much higher. So just keep your eyes out on this. If we do keep on getting rejected here, it's likely that Bitcoin will find a local top. But in the meantime, looking at Bitcoin, it's looking as healthy as ever. And you know how we just discussed that 106K would be major resistance for Bitcoin? Well, the most bullish case scenario for me would not be for us to just chop around and then go higher. I would honestly hope that we get a retest of this breakdown region, as we've been discussing on the channel. So that means that Bitcoin from here, if we were to get this retest, could come all the way back down to just below $100,000 before moving higher. Let's see if we're fortunate enough to get this, but this is what I would be looking at: a key retest of the breakdown region before going ahead and moving higher. This would ultimately give us the fuel for Bitcoin to hopefully surpass 106K and then hold that as support before putting in a new all-time high. Now, taking a look at Bitcoin dominance, the reason being is because altcoins are also a topic of this video that I really need to address. What do you see on this chart here? A huge red candle for Bitcoin dominance. Now, why is this important? All of your favorite crypto influencers are saying that altcoin season is here. But to be fair to them, they've been calling altcoin season since Bitcoin dominance was around 50%. So eventually, if you call things enough times, you will be right. Is this the case? Are we finally getting an altcoin season? Because as we can see on the charts here, a lot of altcoins are up significantly in the past 24 hours, with Pepe leading the pack at a 38% gain. But what else do you notice here? That is Ethereum. Ethereum is now up just below 20% within 24 hours. Yes, you heard that right. Now, how does that compare to Bitcoin? We can see that Bitcoin is up a mere 3.6% within that 24 hours. And naturally, this brings us to the ETH Bitcoin chart. We've been following this chart on the channel extensively, as it will tell us when we can get a confirmed altcoin season. If ETH starts to show renewed strength against Bitcoin and its sustained strength, that is when we get the true altcoin season that everyone is hoping for. Now, what would be required for us to see that renewed strength for ETH Bitcoin? Look, up here we have the Federal Reserve's balance sheet, and as we can see, it continues to go down. This means quantitative tightening. When this goes down, ETH typically bleeds against Bitcoin, and the altcoin market really struggles. Now, at the last FOMC meeting, there was nothing special. Rates stayed the same, and Jerome Powell did say that we will be continuing quantitative tightening. So it's nice to see that ETH Bitcoin is still showing some strength despite not having favorable monetary policy. Now, several weeks ago, we identified this key region in 2019 where ETH Bitcoin held support. This was also when we saw a little bit of quantitative tightening. We held as support, got some pump after we went into QE, and then we came back down and held it as support once more before ETH Bitcoin really started pumping and we got a proper altcoin season. And now in 2025, we came all the way back to this level right around 0.0175, and I did say that this was a relatively attractive level to be accumulating ETH with some of your Bitcoin. Now, you might not like to hear this, but since monetary policy didn't quite change, there is always a risk that ETH Bitcoin could come back lower and perhaps retest this trend line. But for someone like me that accumulated some Ethereum with my Bitcoin and with my US dollars, this is ultimately a very nice pump to see. And the recent altcoin market gains and the Bitcoin dominance dump could be attributed directly to this metric: ETH against Bitcoin. We continue to see renewed strength here. This is ultimately very positive for the altcoin market, but I will warn you, there has been several times here where we got a massive pump only for it to get rejected at its bull market support band, which is this green and red line over here. So what you want to see for ETH Bitcoin, if we ignore for monetary policy would be to come up above this level and hold it as support. Obviously, the bull market support band continues to go down because it's made up of moving averages, and ETH Bitcoin has really been down bad. If we can come back above this level and hold it as support and then move higher, I would be very positive that we would get a sustained altcoin season. Now, it might not be the most insane altcoin season that we've ever seen because, as you can see here, the Fed is still reducing its balance sheet. As we've been discussing, a prime altcoin season would be when this Fed's balance sheet starts flattening out, and hopefully at some point we can enter quantitative easing, although Jerome Powell has not hinted towards that in the slightest. So make sure you're aware here. This is what I would be looking at for ETH Bitcoin, getting back above the bull market support band. The reason why I'm operating with a little bit of caution here and not just throwing caution to the wind is because we've had several times in this downtrend where we got a massive pump for ETH Bitcoin, and it looked like we were holding at key support levels, but ultimately we went ahead and got rejected. Over here, we tried to hold it as support. This was back in June of 2024, and then we went ahead and moved lower. Then we got another massive pump leading into the months before Trump's inauguration, only to get rejected again. So until we can hold this level as support, don't get too excited about altcoin season. This is also why I do think that Bitcoin dominance will likely increase. Now on the channel, you know that we've been covering the fact that we will likely be filling this wick, and we did manage to do that. But in this massive Bitcoin dominance uptrend, we did have some moments where people were calling for altcoin season, especially right around here where we had a fake out in Bitcoin dominance and altcoins were finally starting to get a little bit of steam. But ultimately, we pumped much higher, consolidated back within this zone, and then we moved higher again. So personally, I'm not convinced that this is the altcoin season that everyone is talking about. We still need looser monetary policy. I don't make the rules. Don't get me wrong, I'm really vouching for an altcoin season, but I don't think it's quite there yet. Now, what else did I want to show you? This is the others Bitcoin chart, which is essentially all of the cryptocurrencies outside of the top 10. Look, we held this level as support as we've been discussing on the channel, but this cycle, we haven't even been able to take out the prior high of the previous cycle, which was set back in November 2021. So this tells you that this is nowhere near the altcoin season that everyone's hoping for. Now, could we get a reversal here, having held this level as support and then targeting the top of this range? Yes, of course, that is entirely possible. But let's just see how monetary policy develops. For now, in my spot portfolio, I am still heavy into Bitcoin. And as you know, over the past few weeks, when ETH was below $1,600, I started dollar cost averaging aggressively into Ethereum. And believe me, at this point, since accumulating right around $1,500, I'm very happy with these Ethereum gains. And another important chart that I want to share with you in this video is, of course, analyzing the breakdown of USDT dominance. Usually when this breaks down, we do get a major top for crypto. This is why I'm exercising a little bit of caution here. I'll just go over it quickly again, but in March of 2024, we got the 74K top where USDT dominance held this support, and then we got a massive pump this wick, bringing us all the way to $49,000. Then we came back down and held the 4% level, which was the January 2025 top, right around $109,000. And now we are aggressively testing this trend line. If this trend line breaks, as I've put it on the chart, this is the green arrow. This is exactly what you would want for more bullish momentum in the crypto market. Breaking this trend line and then hopefully breaking 4% would fuel us much, much higher. But if we end up holding this level as support, which we've held on to several times, this is going all the way back into 2017, likely this would mark another local top for Bitcoin. One thing that you do need to be concerned about, and this is not to scare you because this is a beautiful pump and I'm very happy about it, but one thing that you do need to be concerned about here is if I go on the weekly chart, this move by Bitcoin is starting to look eerily similar to what happened back in 2021. Back in 2021, we set a very nice high here right around $65,000. Then we came crashing down and we got another massive pump, making that double top. This was a higher high. Then we came down into the bear market. And so in terms of longing Bitcoin here, I would be exercising a little bit of caution. Now, if we take a look at my more detailed Bitcoin chart, what would be required for me to say, hey, this isn't a repeat of 2021, and I think that Bitcoin will be going much, much higher than the previous 109K top? That would be to hold above 106K as support. Why again? Because every single time we pumped above this level, it acted as major resistance. Yes, we set new highs, but we always closed below $106,150 to be exact. So if we can get above here, man, oh man, it's going to look pretty. And I would be targeting somewhere between 120 and 160K for Bitcoin. Now let's go back to the weekly Bitcoin chart as I wrap up this video. Here's what you want for more bullish continuation. If the candle can close as is, as you can see, peaking above this range, this is what we want to see. Now, if the candle ends up being a nasty wick to the upside and Bitcoin does end up closing somewhere right here, I would be willing to say that we did get rejected from the previous breakdown region, and I would likely be shorting this as a trade. Keep your eyes on this. So far, so good. There is no reason to actually be shorting in this range because right now, Bitcoin is showing us that it does want to move higher. And that reminds me, if you want to trade the crypto markets as I do on a daily basis, you have the first link in my description down below. This brings you directly to weeks where you can earn a $100 bonus simply by signing up using the link down below and connecting your phone number and your email to your account. You get randomized between $10 and $100 in terms of bonuses. And if you're a big trader, I would also highly recommend this exchange because you can literally trade your way up to $30,000 in rewards. Just a reminder, it is the first link in my description down below. And the last thing I want to take a look at here are the liquidation levels. Now, in the short term here on this 24-hour chart, we can see that on both sides, there are some pretty big clusters. A lot of people went long, but there are starting to be some aggressive shorts as well. But if I really zoom out here, you know exactly what chart I'm about to show you that is certainly a cause for concern, and that is the Bitcoin exchange liquidation map. I use this map to tell me what the market is currently doing, and guys, it is not pretty. Look how much long liquidation leverage there is. If Bitcoin were to drop, for example, around 15% back at a retest of the mid 80Ks, we would see $21 billion of cumulative long liquidation leverage. But right now, if Bitcoin explodes to new all-time highs, there's only about $1.25 billion worth of cumulative short liquidation leverage to be grabbed. So keep your eyes on this because a lot of people over these past few weeks have been going aggressively long, and this chart tells you all you need to know. And that sums up today's video. Bitcoin got a very impressive pump above $100,000, and it's dragging the rest of the altcoin market with it as ETH starts to outperform Bitcoin despite the current monetary policy. I personally don't think that we will be seeing a sustained altcoin season, and I think that the Bitcoin dominance train will continue to go. That being said, there's of course always money to be made trading this market. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video.